All right. Welcome, everybody, to another installment in our Unbreakable Trader All-In series. My name is Charlie Bathgate, and I am joined this time around by the one and only Sang Lucci himself.
What's going on, everybody? What's going on? Thanks for having me, Charlie.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being here. So, as we've talked about in the other interviews, the whole theme behind this series, it really came from markets last year. Markets broke a lot of traders last year. It was uniquely difficult. It was uniquely challenging trading environment. And as we were talking to people, every single time we do a master course, we do kind of a content series leading up to it. And we really always try and focus these conversations on what is relevant for traders, what feels most alive for traders. And we talked to a lot of people in our community, outside of the community, and they were like, last year fucking sucked. And so that's what a lot of this is about. It's like, how do you respond? How do you bounce back? How do you bend instead of break? You know, how do you respond to difficult conditions like that? So Lucci and I are going to be talking a lot about that today. And then, the other part of this series is all in, right? Which is where that came from, is us talking to people and saying, this year, 2024 is the year that I'm going to go all in on my trading. I'm going to pull out all the stops. I'm going to do what I need to do to get my trading to the level where I know it can be at. And I'm tired of kind of making it second or a third or fourth priority. It's going to be my top priority this year. And I'm going to get done what I need to get done to get where I want to be. So with that context, Lucci, let's talk about last year for a second. How would you describe what it was like, what markets were like maybe last year? I mean, what made them different? What was, uniquely challenging about them? How would you describe it?
To your point before, when you're doing your little intro, which was very nice, by the way.
Thank you.
You had made a comment about, when talking to a lot of traders, a lot of them say, hey, last year sucked and all that kind of stuff. But if you go on Instagram and you go on social media, you never see that narrative, right? You literally would never see that narrative. I mean, even if you go on YouTube, really, because it doesn't get the views, right? It doesn't get the traction, it doesn't get any of this stuff. And again, like we're talking about people who do this shit for real, pro traders across the board, especially, of course, on the short side. I mean, there's tons of stories of short bias hedge funds blowing out left and right here. A lot of even small cap guys blowing out on a couple different names and a couple big moves that happen on that front as well. But of course, there's always examples of people that are doing well. And I love that. I love that about trading, and I love that about the markets, right? I mean, some newer guy kind of comes along that doesn't have the same habits and doesn't have the same stuff that he's used to and all that kind of stuff, and can change quickly and is kind of, this is the market for them kind of thing. That's the beautiful thing about trading, right? I mean, you can essentially change your strategy at any moment. You can essentially adapt at any moment. You can come into the game at any moment. And if you haven't seen what's happened in the past, you're not accustomed to those things, and that doesn't trap you. That's what trading is. And some people win and some people freaking lose. So with that in mind, last year, I think the biggest issue for most traders, myself included, was that looming narrative that, rates are going to keep going up and inflation is going to keep going up. There's no way we can keep it under control. Dollar's going to absolutely nothing, which, by the way, is still a bit of a narrative out there. But, last year was the hardest that we felt it. And through all of that, it didn't even matter. And the market still went up every single day. It just went up every single day. I mean, we're almost think about this. We're almost at all-time highs. Right. We're literally almost at all-time highs in a market that has a serious problem with inflation, that had some serious panic and fear to it. And that fear was very palpable. And unfortunately, a lot of people are on the wrong side of the trade. And then even on the long side, and I was talking to Ranchero about this, it wasn't a clean long, right? It was always littered with glimpses of this sort of panic and fear. That narrative would kind of just come back every once in a while for 1 week to spook people out. And then boom, it just go right back in and buy things up. And I think that frustrated a lot of people, even on the long side as well. Especially options traders. Options are moving a lot different than they have been before. IVs are moving around. Just everything is a lot more volatile. Zero DTEs have now kind of taken over a lot of the volume here in the markets in general. Most of the volume is traded on the zero DTE, so you'll see a lot of wild SPY movement that has no correlation whatsoever to big boy names. I'm talking about big boy names like Bank of America, Amazon or whatever. Like SPY could be going down 3 points and you'll have Amazon up 7 and shit like that. We're talking about big boy names. Like these things are all very correlated to the index. And usually it's when you look at a chart of SPY, fucking any other stock that you look at is basically going to look like it. And it doesn't. It doesn't. Shit's changing a little bit. Especially in the options world. So, it's those kinds of things. Add on a bunch of others here, and that's gotten to frustrate a lot of traders and gotten them on their back foot. And again, if you're able to adapt, it's all good. If not, those old habits, man, are going to kick you in the ass.
Yeah. I got a question for you about, you were talking about the beginning and you were saying a lot of people like blew up. A lot of people had a lot of challenges trading last year, but that narrative isn't out there. Does it ever piss you off that you have to be like the standard bearer for transparency? You out there and you said like in the fall, you're like, hey, I blew up a 7-figure account, right? And you put that out there and you own that. Yeah. And most, 90% of people are like, positive and they're like, hey, you're going to get this. And everybody knows your track record as a trader and, you're an incredible trader. But doesn't it annoy you that like another 10 guys out there who have lost more money and they're not talking about it? Like,
100%.
Does that piss you off?
It does. It definitely does. I'm not going to lie. I mean, it does. It makes you not want to talk about losses at all because it doesn't even seem like that content anybody even wants, right? So why even put that shit out there if nobody wants it, right? Why don't just talk about good trades? Don't even show, don't show P&L. Don't show a track record. Don't do any of that stuff. It makes you want to just, do what everybody else is doing kind of thing and just act like shit's all good. I mean, if you really want to understand the numbers, but just look at the data behind the funded simulation programs. I mean, it's a fact. All this data it's there. 90 to 95% of these traders who try to get into a simulation account do not make money. The small amount who beat the simulation and get some real cash, they blow out eventually. So they never get paid out, and then there's a very, very small percentage, of course, that makes money. And you only hear about the fucking very, very small percent who do. And it's the same thing in trading, which is fine. But again, if we're talking about such a small amount and that's all the content that is out there, it obviously doesn't make sense. It obviously does not make sense. Somebody is not speaking. And unfortunately, it's difficult, right? It's difficult to talk about losses. It's difficult because you don't feel good, right? And then there's life that's tied to that, right? If you ain't got no money, your life is tied to that. So you ain't gonna be feeling like doing any content. Let's be real about it, right? So I understand why. Like, when are you going to want to do content and you just lost $1 million? Like, I lost $1 million. Now I got to make a fucking video. You know what I mean? If I made $1 million, let's just pull up the camera right now. Pull up the GoPro, man. Shove it in my face, and I got something to say. It's easy for the words to come out. So yeah, man, it definitely upsets me. But again, there's always people who are real in the game. We know many of them, and those were the ones that reached out always to me. Once I blew out that account, I got emails from all of them, and it was all love. This shit I already know, shit that they knew, and and that was mostly what they wrote. It was like, yo, it's all good. You've been here before, man. It's just do what you do, kind of thing.
Right. When you trade with the kind of size and the kind of aggression that you trade with, like, this happens, and it's just part of the process. It's part of your process. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. I always just wondered that because I get annoyed on your behalf when you're the one out there, putting that out there and everybody in. And
I gotta eat it. I mean, even on the live stream, man, like people are no holds barred, man. They'll say what they gotta say, which I respect. I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. I mean, you got your opinion, it is what it is. Like, I really don't. I've gotten good at just shaking it off and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, man, it gets a little frustrating.
Yeah. Well, that leads into, Unbreakable, the theme of it. So you obviously have a reputation for being, have an incredible feel for the markets with your read on tape, for trading with big size, obviously. But I think people who've known you for a long time also are like in awe of your resilience, from your ability to just like always stick in the game, always get in touch with that belief in yourself, that your edge is there, and you just got to go through the process and figure it back out. I mean, what do you, for knowing your experience going through all this, for people who got rocked last year, what do you say to those kind of people? They're sitting there, they're watching this interview, and they're like, yeah, I got my ass beat last year, I feel like shit. What do I do about that, Lucci? Like, how do I, tell me some of your wisdom.
Through all of this, it's like, and again, I'm not 100% about this. It's not like I feel this way all the time. I mean, there's moments that are depressing. There's other moments that are very fulfilling. There's other moments that are very free. There's other moments where you feel you're back in survival mode because you got to go back to you got to go back to basic shit, and work back from scratch again. There's so many ways to kind of look at this. But the one thing that I would say is and the sort of overreaching kind of point that encompasses everything, is the fact that you're still alive. You still got the ability. You still have the edge. You never lost it. You just lost yourself. You lost yourself somewhere along the road because of whatever you had going on. And it takes a while for us to find ourselves. And again, I'm talking about myself in particular. Other people are quicker than me. Other people don't, they don't experience the emotional sort of swings that I do. Other people don't pack on so much other things on top of their shoulders. Other people don't like taking care of a lot of other people. Other people kind of keep it simple. I keep it complicated. I always keep it complicated. I always keep it moving. I always keep it, I always want to do more.
Pardon the brief interruption, but I just want to remind you that the final live Sang Lucci Master Course ever starts on March 25th. If you're ready to put in the work, we can make you into an unbreakable trader. You can learn more and get access to a bunch of free bonus content over at sanglucci.com/MC, and that link is in the description as well. All right, back to the video.
It's just kind of what I do. Now, are there consequences to it? 100%. Could I have done better things? 100%. All that stuff. But at the highest level, you're still alive. You got a shot. You got a shot. You know what I mean? There's things that can be done. I mean, when you're younger and you take a shot, what do? It's like, hey, I go back to work and I figure it out. Like it's easier then to make that decision. When you're older, right, and you got a family and all this kind of stuff, the weight of it is a little bit more, right? Because you can't stick and move as quickly as you could, when you were a kid, so to speak. But again, it's no different. It ain't the same thing. You go back to the shit and you do what you have to do, and things will start going very rapidly once you leave what happened behind, right? The more you hold on to this, and the more you're asking yourself, well, why? How come I messed this up? How come I didn't do this? How come I didn't do that? It's like, bro, you lost your chance to ask those questions. Those questions are done. Those questions are useless. All they're going to do is make you more of whatever you're feeling right now. If that's, shitty or depressed or this, that, whatever. Yeah. Those questions are useless to you. You've lost the time to answer those questions. So, or to ask those questions. The question you should be asking is, what do I need to do to separate myself from all the shit that happened and get back into the right mindset,
Right.
And it could be all kinds of things, from eating right to not drinking so much, or going to the gym, or, all the little things. You go back to those things, you reconnect with yourself and figure out what's the next stage. What do you want? And then you go right back at it, So after this process, I've already done that, right? Now I know what my next 10 years is going to look like. I've mapped this kind of stuff out, and that's what I want to go after, So yeah. Maybe it does include trading. Maybe it does include something, that's a little bit different. Maybe a different strategy, because obviously the markets have changed here. You got to adapt. So, right. Maybe it includes some other projects. Maybe it includes this or that. But the point is that you lost to find yourself. You had to lose to find yourself through that process. So while you were losing and trying to grab on to any fucking, stick that was thrown at you here, just so you could catch a catch a breather here and stop feeling so bad, you're preventing yourself from finding that why, finding that reason, So once you lose it, now you got no choice. It's funny how that happens, right? So for me, again, I go back to the chaos theory all the time, and that's me. That's me in a nutshell. I think that's the world in a nutshell as well. I mean, people only wake up until chaos happens. So does it have to happen? No. Are there risk management things that you can do to make sure it doesn't happen? Of course. Does it happen? Shit, it happens all the time. And I hate that narrative is not out there. It's not out there at all. Nobody talks about that narrative.
You mean that people don't change until it gets really bad for them? That they have to experience chaos to change what they're doing. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. That narrative is not really out there. The narrative is, times will get tough, and this is going to be hard, but keep going, kind of thing. But there's no, nobody actually sits there and admits that, hey, I fucked this up, and this is what kind of happened. So that narrative, unfortunately, is not out there, which, by the way, is a majority of the fucking narratives out there. It's a majority of the narratives out there, and it's not, nobody really talks about it. But anyway, so you have to let go of the past. You have to let go of your attachment to it, which means how you think you feel because it happened. If you feel like a piece of shit, if you feel less worthy, if you feel this, if you feel that, you can't feel like that and trade good at the same time. It ain't gonna happen. Unless you're completely automated, which unfortunately 90% of retail trader is not even 1% automated. So what are you gonna do? You have to live with yourself while you're trading. So, that's kind of.
I mean, it's fascinating to hear you talk about, like, the root of it all is losing touch with yourself, right? And so the path forward, the way back, is to get back in touch with yourself. And you're saying, the way for you. I mean, you've been talking about, like, you're basically treating beach tennis like a semi-professional athlete at this point. You're like, every time I talk to you, Lucci and I would be like, you want to do a meeting this time of day? And Lucci's like, no, I can't, because I have a workout in the gym, because I got to get my calves to a certain point so I can move like this on the beach and everything. And I'm like, all right, this is not just a hobby. Like, this is a vehicle for you to get back in touch with yourself.
Dude, 100%. There's nothing that can make me feel right now how I feel on the beach playing like good beach tennis. Like, I just walked off the beach today and I seen a couple of the pros, like 4 of them, and I just sat there and I watched them, because these guys just fly in the sand, and the way that the touch that they have is so incredible. And when I'm talking about touch, it's like you have to arrive at the ball. You have to plant your feet and your body in a certain place just to get the shot off. And then you have to, you now have to use your hand and your arm here to graze the ball in with the right top spin, the right lift, the right position, right? You have to see where your opponent is from the outside the corner of your eye and shit. And all this, like, has to happen in a fraction of a second, less than a damn second. You know what I mean? And to get your body to a place where it can do that efficiently for 2 hours in a row. I'm talking about high intensity. I mean, it puts my body at the best place that it could be. And if I know I can beat X, Y, and Z player or whatever, like, it gives me all the confidence back, and it lets you know that, all right, if you put the work in, shit's gonna come out. So stop feeling bad about yourself. Stop feeling shitty. Go fucking put the work in, man. You got no other choice.
Right. I mean, it's that kind of stuff is fascinating to me, because someone from the outside would be like, dude, this guy, he needs to do work on his trading. Why isn't he sitting in front of a screen till midnight doing work on his trading? But when you describe it like that, when you articulate it like that, it makes complete sense, And I think you're at a stage in your career where it's not really, I mean, we can talk about, zero DTE, options. I want to go into that, but, like, for the most part, you're not developing new skill sets, right? You have your read on tape, how an option moves. Like, you're not like, I actually need to understand why the SPY moves the way it does. It's
there's no new
zeroed in on your issue. Yeah.
There's no new skill set. The skill set that you're talking about or you're referring to is the awareness that you're not fucking using your skill set because you're emotionally tied to some other reaction, and you're now away from your bread and butter, your skill set, aka reading tape. You ain't reading tape anymore. You're just hoping an option will go to X, Y, and Z so you can get out of the fucking misery that you're in. That's all you're doing. And you do that over and over and over. And imagine now you're talking about reprogramming yourself after a horrible year of trading. What do you think is going to happen? It takes time to reprogram yourself. It takes time to do all this kind of stuff, you know? And I think it's very easy for people to just be like, oh, yo, you should do, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? Like, dude, I have to train my own mind. That's my shit. You know, if I'm getting held back by my own shit, it has nothing to do with what should or shouldn't be. The fact is I missed it because I wasn't even there. I wasn't even there. I was off in my head somewhere. I was off in an emotion somewhere.
Right.
And so it doesn't matter what you know. And again, this is why, the future of Sang Lucci is finding solutions to this problem right here. You know what I'm saying? The problem that nobody can solve right now for any retail trader, besides going full automation, and even that is not a full solution here, because you still got to code better. You still got to make sure your code works. You still got to do all kinds of stuff. So what I just said right there and there, that's you were asking me if I need to get new skill sets or whatever. Nah, this shit's already there. My feel is already there. If I'm zoned in and looking at the tape, just give me an hour. Just give me an hour. I know what the fuck is happening here. There's a whole different story, though, of what I'm actually going to do and actually how I execute.
Right.
There's a whole different story right there. And there's a whole different narrative that's going on up here. And it's all up here.
Yep. I mean, for everybody who's watching this, and you guys, I hope you've watched the interviews with Jay, with Chris, with Ranch, just pay attention to the different lens that these guys use to look at their trading, right? I mean, you got 4 guys who are professionals who are doing this at an extremely high level, and they all are looking at things through the lens that makes the most sense to them, right? They all have the work that they need to do that makes sense to them. And that's one of the biggest notes that we hit on the master course that we ram home over and over and over. You can't take the solution that worked for somebody else and just blanket, put it on, apply it to yourself. Like, you have to find the way that the thing that you need to focus on, so it is precise to your specific issues and your circumstances. And that's exactly what you're talking about right now, Luch. You're just like, I'm doing what works for me. So,
and I got to work through the shit that I got to work through, and and that takes us however long it's going to take. But I know what's at the end of that. What's at the end of that road? It's nothing. It's nothing ever new. It's just the process and the time that it needs to take. And what happens at the end of the road is you figure your shit out, and then you hit your upside.
And that confidence, that like that deep knowledge that you've got, that what you can do. You've made millions in your trading career. Do you feel like you attribute it to that, or even when you were at the prop firm starting out and you had $5,000 and you were struggling, were you just like, I know? Did you have that walk to begin the game? Did you have that, or did you grow that over track record and
that I never really had the confidence until, actually, I'm lying. I had the confidence like a year and a half in. And by the way, it's ironic that a year and a half in, I had the confidence. I knew exactly what I needed to do. And it's the same thing that I have to do right now, which kind of asks the other question. The other burning question is if you're telling me I had the confidence a year and a half ago and I had the same fucking problem, and now we're talking about 16 years later, you still have the confidence, but you have the same fucking problem, then it just is what it is. It's just part of the game, and it's part of who I am and how I approach, whatever this stuff is. And again, you guys can be completely different. It is what it is. But every so often, I have these periods. It just, it is what it is. And as long as I'm staying here and I'm alive and I'm still shooting, that time is coming.
What happened for you 18 months in? Was that a moment where you're like, oh, I understand tape now? I can read. I now understand that I can read markets, and now
I knew how to read. I knew how to read tape pretty well, like 8 months into it, 9 months into it, because I spent literally all day reading. I did nothing but read tape all day. You know what I mean? I didn't read any books. I didn't talk to anybody. I just read tape all day, and when what you're doing is just you're looking at the interaction between buyers and sellers and just trying to figure out if there's something there, if there's something powerful enough, to move the markets. And if there is, how much power are you going to get? And then which option do we need to buy? And then it comes down to the execution. So after like 7-8 months, I knew how to read it. And then eventually, after like a year and a half, then I realized the real problem, the biggest problem. And the biggest problem was always myself. I had $20,000 days a year and a half into the game. I had, I had huge days. I had $100,000 a month 2 years into the game. And then, the next month I lose 50. And the month after that, I lose 20. Why? Because you start pushing it. You want more, and all the same shit that every trading book talks about, and all this emotional stuff, all this stuff that you guys already know what I'm talking about. So I had it. And then I knew at that moment, if I didn't try to solve this or even try to be a little bit better, I was never gonna actually keep the money that I made.
Right.
And then, by the way, there's also a timing aspect. You're also looking for your market.
Yep.
So after 15 years or 16 years of doing this shit, I don't even know how long I've been. It's like understanding yourself so damn well that you know when to shut it off. You know when to shut it off, and you know when to press it, and you know when to chill. And unfortunately, those factors are often influenced by external shit and emotions and all that kind of stuff. Those are the three things that are always influenced by other shit. And if you've got a lot of other shit influencing your ability to be able to push it and know when to push it and know when to chill, that can make or break you. You know what I mean? So a lot of it is luck and timing. And I say luck by the fact of when is your market coming? When is it your market? When is it the shit that you like to trade, how you like to trade?
Right.
You can adapt to a new market as much as you want. That doesn't mean you fucking like it. That doesn't mean you do well in it. That doesn't mean you crush it in it. So I'm always looking for where's the crush? Where's the game here? And this market, I'm telling you right now, it hasn't been my game for a long time.
Right.
But it hasn't been my game because I can't make money and I can't read it. It hasn't been my game because of all the other external factors and shit that I got going on.
Right.
And again, you're not putting blame on these things, but at the same time, all these things have a factor to push you into a mindset where you ain't got control of your habits, your behaviors, your decisions.
Right. That is a huge emphasis for what we talk about in the master course is like, how do you build, scaffolding around yourself psychologically so that you don't, you can hold steady through shit like that, through turbulence like that. I mean, do you want to talk about just zero DTEs and like what your experience trading these things and what it was like, seeing new instruments come out like that last year?
Sure.
And just, I mean, how's that going?
The zero DTEs, man, it reminds me of when I started learning how to trade options and I found SPY, because SPY was the only thing liquid enough to move some serious size in and get some, and get the percentage gains on a day-to-day basis. And I was betting size at that point. I had already hit like, $500,000, $1 million account, and I started to trade options with SPY, but I wasn't consistent. I couldn't really figure it out per se. I couldn't figure it out because, and this was back then because SPY is not a trending vehicle right now. It is not a trending vehicle in the sense of, buy it one day and, we're going to trend up the rest of the day. SPY is a very bouncy up and down behavior type activity that is littered with a lot of algos, a lot of program activity that stems from news that comes out during the session every single fucking day. It's influenced by a lot of other things. And, market making manipulation is at the top of that freaking list. Because again, if you're selling all these zero DTEs to these retail schmucks, it's very easy at the last 10 minutes or the first 10 minutes to move a market or make a pre-market bias set in because of you're moving around the markets pre-market. Now everybody gets a bias, and then it's completely the opposite, once the day opens. Now, when the zero DTEs hit, there's so much volume in these things. They're taking over. Nobody's trading nearly as much equity options as they're trading these index and in these zero DTEs, which means what? Which means that's the number one retail traded product, right? In terms of an option, right? And then number two, every single market maker is in there because that's where the fish is. That's where your fish is. That's where your edge is. That's where your game is. SPX options have a huge spread on them, 40 cents, 50 cent spread on them. So market makers can go to town here on retail traders with that kind of spread. Okay. Similar to the old days of BTC and other products that are futures based products based on BTC that have a little bit wider spreads. These are market making fantasies. You want to be a market maker and shit like this. So that's it. It reminds me of those days when the weekly options first came out for indexes, and when I was just trading out, just figuring out like how to move size in SPY options. And it's crazy, bro. It's crazy. Especially some guys in the room have really figured out the 0 DTE game, and using some of the tools, by the way, that we've recently built and shoved into the room. Yep. Using some of those tools, they've been really able to scrape together a lot of freaking money because the ranges on SPY are very wide right now. That means like an SPX option that is going to expire at the end of the day at 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock even, or 3 o'clock. These shits are fucking worthless. They're pennies on the dollar. So there's guys in the room that'll basically like shoot and scalp at certain moments and then just take lotto tickets, because oftentimes SPX is just going to have wild reversals inside of a big range. And when you hit the bottom of that range or the top end of that range and you go the other side, you get a lotto option that goes from 20 cents to fucking $2, $5, $7. And it happens every day. It happens every day. It's not like a weekly thing. It happens every day, literally. And you're just sitting there looking at this like, are you kidding me? Like I could have taken $1,000 and made 20 grand today if I just threw out a lotto ticket. But again, that's the game, right? That's the game. And again, this is the game of trading. It's just, this is the new game. This is the new game here that has recently been developed. And again, this is where everybody wants to be in the option space, these 0 DTEs. They've done so well that the CME, of course, is going to roll out 0 DTEs for God knows what.
Right.
They're going to do it for treasuries here. I think that's going to be the next one. Obviously, you already see it on BTC and all that shit. So you can already do it there. But it gives the larger trader too access to really hedge, even more access to hedge a portfolio and things like that. So, again, the volume in and of itself just blew up. In reality, I wish we were on that side of the trade, just making money off the commissions here. Because in reality, it's just that's
an easier game.
It's retail junky ass traders, because they see, of course, if you see every single day an option that goes from $1 to $10, and I'm talking about in a span of 20 seconds or 30 seconds, and then it goes to 0, there's money on all these kinds of sides. Like, what are you going to think? Of course, it's going to attract everybody. And then on the other side, if I'm a market maker, and then on the other side, if I'm the commissions guy, there's a whole community that is eating, off of this new world, so to speak, of the 0 DTEs.
I mean, you talk about the herd a lot, and separating yourself from the herd and the herd of retail. I mean, the herd has been driven into these new instruments, right? And the herd's going to keep doing what it does, whether they're trading equities or 0 DTEs or whatever. Just keep on exhibiting herd behavior, and the predators, the pros, the market makers, the algos or whatever, they're going to do exactly what they always do to try and pick off the herd. It's just a new vehicle for the same old, right? Same old patterns that play out. I mean, one of the things I want to go back to for you, we were talking about kind of your early days, part of the theme for this whole series is all in. And I feel like in your first 18 months, you went all in on trading.
Oh yeah, 100%,
you were like,
100%.
This is all I'm fucking doing.
100%.
I mean, do you think it's necessary for anybody who's at that like initial phase, 6 months to maybe a year or two, to just have a period where they go all in, where they're just like, no, I have to go super deep into this and learn this skill set?
I think this generation, and again, this is my opinion. I think this generation believes that it can get the same results without having to do the work or going about it some other way. I think this new generation believes that they can figure it out from a different perspective, from a different set of tools, from literally anything. They can kind of reinvent the game, so to speak. And I think that's bullshit. I really do think that is bullshit, because when you say go all in, what does that really mean to you? Do you want to know what it means to me? It means you cut out all the distractions and you just do this one thing until you figure it out.
Mhm.
And if you think about what it is to cut out all distractions, how the fuck do you accomplish anything else? Like if you want to, if you want to be great at something, if you want to be average and be okay and all that kind of stuff, you're going to get those kinds of results. It is what it is in anything that you want to do. I mean, how do I get to play in a pro beach tennis game? How do I get to do that? And again, like these pros will destroy you, man. They will absolutely fucking dismantle you. How do I get on that court? And there's no other way to get on. I can't just say, okay, I'm good enough to be here. Like, no, you're not. So what? I'm good.
Put in the work.
I'm like,
you
I'm
put
good.
In the work, right? Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I can step on a court with those guys.
Right.
It doesn't mean it at all. There's even when I play and I watch them, I'm like, oh shit, they have that and I don't. Like that's the next thing that I got to work on. Or this move over here when somebody does this. Everything is about scenarios and strategies for tennis. You know this, where you're placing the ball, angles and shit. Where to place it so that your opponent has less options. All that stuff. Like how the hell do I end up on that court?
Playing chess, not checkers. Yeah.
Exactly. How the hell do I end up on that court if I don't work those muscles? Like if I don't even, it's not possible. It's literally not possible. So, we could come up with 90 examples here. Let's talk golf here. You think you're going to be good at golf without hitting the ball and just being like, okay, yeah, I'm relatively good over here, and now I can play fucking golf. Come on, man. It's driving a car even. If you don't have the road time. There's scenarios here that are going to throw you off and you're going to get in an accident, shit like that. It's just a natural thing of what you have to do. So I don't think when you say going all in, it's like, yeah, that's the pinnacle of what it should look like. You know what most of us are at? Most of us are the wanting to go all in, but can't manifest the energy to go all in. That's where most people are sitting.
Right.
It's literally where most people are at. You know exactly what you need to do, that you need to kill this, and this, all this distraction, so that you can go all in on what you really want. You can't get there because something keeps pulling you back.
Right.
That's it. That's it right there. That's the majority of all of us. So I really don't think there's a debate about this. I think this generation just loves to create content and just I think they love to just challenge a narrative because that narrative creates views and all this kind of stuff. That narrative creates content that produces views and eyes, and then those views and eyes turn into something. It's just saying something just to say it.
Right.
In my opinion, at least. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, I think that everybody has a different type of work that they have to do depending on where they're at in their career, right? I mean, like last night I watched Yannick Sinner beat Djokovic in the Australian Open, right? Which I'm a huge Sinner fan. I'm like, this kid is 22 years old, number 4 in the world. He beats Djokovic in the Australian Open, where this guy hasn't lost in since like 2015 past.
And he was cruising too.
And he crushed him, right? He crushed him. The type of work that Yannick Sinner is doing right now looks very different than the type of work that I might be doing as like a good tennis player, but not a professional if I go out on the court, right?
Yeah.
I still have stuff where I'm like, I need to work. My technique on my backhand is not good, right? Yannick Sinner is not like, how do I hit a backhand, right? No. He's not doing that work. He is doing mental work. It's a lot more like the type of work that Lucci was talking about
trading
in this interview. And you saying, I got to get back in touch with myself. It's more psychological. It's almost spiritual on that level, right?
How to allow your body to train your body enough and then how to allow it to do what it's supposed to do.
And I think one of the problems that people have when they're coming out from the public is they're like, oh, I see Lucci and he's doing that kind of work, so I need to do that. No, you've been training for 6 months. You don't know how to read tape. You don't know how options move. The work you need to be doing and going all in on is tactical. Is how to understand what to do to refine your edge, to have an edge. And I think that's one of the places where people get lost because they're doing the wrong kind of work, and they're not acknowledging where they're at, in their career and their development. So, and that's one of the reasons why we make the master course as sort of comprehensive as it is, instead of being very, very specific of, oh, we're just going to teach you how to trade weekly options, is because we have people who come in from all different levels. We have people who've been trading for 15 years who come in and they're like, I've always wanted to learn tape. I'm going to learn this from Lucci. I'm going to add that quiver, that arrow to my quiver. Yeah. And then we have people who come in who've been doing it for like 3 months, and they need a different level of education. They need a different type of education. So that's why it's as comprehensive as it is.
Yeah, we got there's some heavy hitters in the steam room. I mean, they'll come out every once in a while, and some of these guys they trade some big ass books, but they only trade stock, or they only trade futures, or they only trade some shit, and they're there generally to learn how to trade options. And Ranchero usually has to handhold them. And again, these are people who are trading big boy accounts here that need to be handheld because they have no clue what the fucking option is or how to use it, or But these are also some powerful traders here that can turn a skill set into another strategy, into a lot of other things. So
yeah,
it doesn't matter what level you are. It doesn't mean you have it all. You have all the tools. I mean, the stuff that the boys are doing in the background of Sang Lucci, building out new tools for the steam room. Now we started to look at gamma. I never started to look at gamma here for options. I never looked at any of that stuff. Now, like I understand it. I get, like, if I'm a market maker, it just explains in a different way the way that I look at the market as well. So It makes sense to use it as a visualization. Now there's just a way to visualize it is all. It's not just something sitting in your head being like, oh, I've seen this before and blah, 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 blah. It's now there's a visualization. Now there's a data visualization tool that everybody can use. That it's much easier to do that than train yourself for 10 months sitting in front and reading tape.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know. I feel like we covered the majority of it. Like, is there anything that you feel like looking forward to 2024? I mean, not making broad predictions of where the SPY is going to close, in December of 2024. But I don't know. What do you feel like is on the horizon for 2024? What are you going to have your eye on?
Man, I went to this conference in Puerto Rico the other day, and there was some freaking big shots up in there. I mean, there was 3 billionaires at the event, in and of itself, right? One of the guys was he was owner of Dollar Shave Club and Liquid Death, which is a new water product. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
That person is a fucking genius. I don't know who that is, but to be able to sell canned water in a different way,
and call it Liquid Death. We're talking about water.
I had to.
We're talking about water, and the slogan is "Murder Your Thirst" here, and they called it Liquid Death. And I'm hanging out with this guy. I'm smoking weed with this dude, and doing dumb shit with this man. And I'm there, and there's Peter Schiff that is there. Peter Schiff was he did another speech there, and Schiff, of course, he does the same narrative every single year every single speech that he does. Not to knock him, the man's obviously very accomplished. He was talking about this economy is bullshit. All the data is bullshit. Everything is nonsense. The Fed put us in this miserable situation that we are right now. We're already in a recession. The Fed's going to screw this up just like they did before. And when everybody realizes it, everybody is fucked. This recession is going to be even worse than the one before. Forget about 2008. This shit is going to be even worse. And all this stuff, right? So he'll say that. He'll come up and say that. Right. Then you get another economist that comes up on stage and gives you the other narrative. He says anybody who thinks like that has only been lucky or right maybe once or twice in a whole laundry list of times where they ain't been fucking right. So, go be a bull and buy some shit and go the fuck home type thing, and that's what another economist say. And then you'll see this Liquid Death guy talking about trading options, and you'll just be like, what the fuck is going on here? Where am I? Number one. 2, like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. And 3, where the fuck is this market? Where could this market even go? Why? You know what I mean? I think just by the way that I've been looking at everything, we're going higher. We're going higher. We're going all-time highs. I don't think anybody has any fear whatsoever in this market. And I think to push that fear narrative, yeah, fine. Maybe you'll get a couple days out of it or whatever, but It ain't here. It's not here. It's not. It ain't here. Nobody's selling fucking anything. It's honestly similar to real estate. Real estate people are sitting on great rates. Nobody wants to fucking sell anything. You know, these investors here are sitting on great returns here. Nobody wants to fucking sell anything. And now you have beaten down names that everybody got smoked on during COVID. Everybody got smoked on during COVID. That all those big tech names here that came back on everybody, those names are coming back as well. Everything in Kathy Wood's book is finally going up now. And, you know, so people are making the money back that they lost on that sector as well. They've already made their money back tenfold on fucking names like Nvidia and all this kind of other nonsense, you know. So I don't see the bearishness here yet. Of course, there's other narratives. Remember, it's a freaking election year, you know. It's an election year. Trump wins Iowa. Trump wins fucking. Can you even believe this? Like a year ago, the news cycle was this, he's going to jail and blah, blah, blah. Now he wins Iowa. He's back on the ticket. Nothing ever fucking happened. Like you know what I mean? Like, what are we even talking about? If Trump gets in office, the last time Trump won, by the way, which was what, 4 years ago? 4 years ago? No.
No, 8 years ago, right?
It was 8 years ago. Was it 8 years ago?
2016. 2016? Yeah,
Jesus
2016. Yeah.
Christ. When that happened, okay? When that happened, the futures were down 100 fucking handles when they announced his presidency. And then in maybe 4 hours before the market opened the next day, we were back and then 100 points up, and we ran 200 handles off of his inauguration.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? Yeah.
There's a dominant narrative, and then there's just who the fuck knows.
Yes. It's that. Yeah. I mean, and then you see companies posting stupid earnings here, man. Netflix, for one, you know, Netflix was trading, I think earlier this year. It was like the worst stock to fucking own. Nobody wanted to own it.
Dude, there was a stretch. It was last year, I feel like, but everybody was just like, this is it. This is the end of Netflix.
This is the end of Netflix.
They can't turn the corner. They're too big. They're bloated. Yeah.
You know, even in October, this thing was printing $340. It's going to go to $600. It's going to go to $600, and that was a 3-month move. So you're seeing a lot of that narrative getting pushed out there. The same thing that we're seeing right now with Tesla. You know, you're seeing a lot of that sort of narrative getting pushed, and they get swallowed up, man. But I'll tell you what, from an emotional perspective, they're good at, from a behavioral perspective or whatever, they're really good at moving the herd, man. Even to this day, you would think the herd gets smarter. You would think we all get smarter at some point, right? We're talking about decades of a market existing, decades of books being written about the same shit over and over and over and over and over. But it just keeps repeating ourselves, you know? I mean, that pandemic shit, what was the last pandemic before COVID? I don't know. The point is when we were the last.
Spanish flu.
It was Spanish flu. It was Spanish flu. Then you think about Y2K, and you think about what our mentality was when these things come along, and they are over. It's almost like you can't fight them because everybody believes it. And if everybody around you believes it, how could you fight it? It's so easy to the wave's too big. It's too big. So COVID happens, everybody goes get a fucking shot, and that's it. Nobody questions anything. And now all the data shows and all the science now is saying we're all fucking idiots. But we did it. We did it again. We did it again. We allowed a media here to manipulate us. And look at what we do every day in the markets. We just allow this manipulation to happen time and time and time again. Which means what? Which means we as human beings here, to make it as a trader or to make it as anything, you got to be a top peak motherfucker. You got to be a top peak person. How do you even do that? How do you do that? You know, you got to shut some shit off here and go all in. You got to shut some shit off and you got to go all in. And it doesn't matter how long it takes you to go all in. You're probably a majority of you are trying to do it right now. A majority of you are trying to go all in right now, but you still lose to the old habits. Right. And we know this. We're one of the only ones that know this about you. About all of you that are watching this video. We're the only ones that know this. Or we're the only ones that want to talk about it. You know, you'll see in the comments after we post this fucking video. They'll be like, yep. We're the only ones you can talk to. Who else are you going to talk to? And have this conversation with. It ain't your mom. It's not your other trader friends in your fucking Telegram chats. I'll tell you that much. You know, so it takes time. It takes time.
That is a perfect note to end on. You know, Lucci always telling keeping it real, telling it like it is. This is one of the reasons why the master course has been so successful, had such an impact on so many people over the years we've been doing it. This is the last time we're doing it in this format. This is the last time we're going to do a master course. So March 25th, if you guys want in, this is the last time. After that, it's going to be a lot more expensive to learn from the whole team in this context. And it's probably going to be an in-person event in New York or Puerto Rico or something like that. We're just not going to teach things in the same way anymore. So if you guys want in, you want this kind of energy, you want this perspective, and obviously the skill sets that we teach, now's the time to do it. Luch,
right.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate your time, your honesty, your you being you. Appreciate it.
No doubt, Charles. Talk soon, man.
All right, man.